We are live.
Yes.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Saturday Afternoon Coffee Mastermind. My name is Steve Didier. I'm here with my partner in crime, Susan Batchelder. Say hi, Susan.
Hello.
Okay, this is actually a very different, very special version of the Saturday Afternoon Coffee Mastermind because it is the last Saturday of the calendar year 2013. So, what we're doing for you today, we got something a little bit special. We're actually doing a two-part series. We were going to do, originally, last week we talked about doing it's the end of the year, everybody's thinking about goals for the new year, so we're going to do a goal-setting one. But really to try and do that all in one shot, I think would be kind of counterproductive, and it would be selling you guys short because there's some things that need to be addressed in both the mindset and the mechanics end of setting goals. So when you and I talked, Susan, we kind of decided to split it up and make sure we cover each side thoroughly.
Yeah, I think it's really important.
Very important. Let me close my Outlook so I stop getting these emails in. All right, there we go. It's done. So the first part, what we're doing then is we're gonna kind of talk mindset and the frame of mind and the kind of the psychology that you need to have and need to understand before actually getting into the goal setting, the actual mechanics and the writing down of your goals in the different areas and things like that. So when you're talking mindset, you're talking psychology behind goal setting, what do you think that people really need to wrap their head around first?
To me, I think for mindset with goal setting needs to almost be thought about in three phases. So there's the initial mindset, which of course is our main focus for this. I think what needs to be in place is not the focus on the actual goal that you want to achieve, goal or goals, but what is it about you? What is your passion? What is the element that you want to achieve? So knowing yourself and knowing where you are right now and who you want to be when you get to that said goal or goals. So a bit of evaluation needs to be kind of in the mindset.
Absolutely.
Evaluating process or awareness.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Now I was actually thinking like one step before that, like as in why even go through all this? Why set goals in the first place? Why write them down? Why do any of this? Why even look at the psychology? Why even get into the mechanics of it? And I looked something up because I read this, and it's a lot of people have used this, including Brian Tracy and different people, but Harvard Business School, real quick, Harvard Business School, Harvard, the MBA program, the Master's of Business Administration, 1979. They asked everybody in the class in the MBA program. Now this is a Harvard MBA. This is, top of the food chain as far as education in the business world. The students were asked, have you set clear written goals?
Sorry.
Something?
I'm trying to find the mute.
Okay, we good? Okay, I'll just go. All right. They asked the questions, everybody in the Harvard MBA program in 1979, they asked them, have you set clear written goals for your future and made plans to accomplish them? Only 3% of the graduates had written goals and plans, and only 13% overall had goals, but they were not in writing. 84% had no specific goals whatsoever. So here's what they did 10 years later. the members of the class were interviewed again, the same people that they talked to. The 13% of the class who had goals were earning, on average, twice as much as the 84% who made no goals at all. And the 3% who had clear written goals, they were earning on average 10 times as much as the other 97% put together. 10 times as much. That is hugely strong. We're talking about people who have gone through one of the most prestigious business schools in the world. We're talking about, you know, people who are educated. We're not just talking regular Joe averages here. And the 3% who had clear written goals were earning 10 times as much as the other 97% put together.
That's huge.
Huge. Huge, 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 huge. And the ones who actually just kind of had the goals in their mind were earning twice as much as the other 84%. But writing them down, this is why you have goals. If you want to achieve something and you want to earn or do whatever it is, whatever area of life you're talking about, you know, finance is just easily measured. You know, dollars are easily measured. You can't. It's tough to measure happiness in terms of a quantitative sort of thing, but we're talking 10 times as much. That's
exactly. Huge. And that, so going back to pointing out our title, that makes that word that's in there that sometimes we just use lightly, but that makes that word effective have a whole lot more meaning.
Absolutely. Effective. Yeah, because goal setting in and of itself is great. Write down wherever you want, but if you're not hitting them, then it's really kind of pointless. So yeah, effective is the key word there.
Right. And if, hence why we came to this specifically focusing on recording a discussion about the mindset, because you can't have effective goals if you don't put some thought into where your mind is when you're setting them.
Exactly.
It's just not possible.
No, it's not possible. You have to. You know, people have worked out over the years. This is not just you and me coming up with this crap just off the cuff. People have set. You know, there's a strategy for goal setting that if you follow it, makes it that much more effective. And we'll get into the exact you know, mechanics and the step-by-step type stuff in the next video. But keep that in mind as we discuss the psychology of it. Effective.
Right. Effective. This is just from my personal mindset, and I scale it up and improve on it every year. But throughout the year, I do goal setting and reevaluate and assess. I have this whole little process that I take with goal setting. But as the end of the year is coming, I start thinking about my big goal process for the next year by November, sometimes even earlier. I'm starting to get into that mode, and the month of December to me isn't a scramble for gifts and Christmas tree decorations and cooking. It's actually most of my energy is spent readying for the next year.
Yep.
Evaluating the past year and readying for the next year.
Exactly. So I'm the same as you. It's a big.
Yeah, very much on purpose. All of it is very much on purpose. So that's kind of cool that we're coming at it from both different angles again, like all of our other topics, but we're putting this all together. So I hope that for those of you watching, that you don't take this lightly.
No, this is probably one of the most important hangouts that we've done all year. I mean, we cover some serious topics, but if you're going to really focus on one thing to master, the art of setting and achieving your goals is kind of the foundation of success.
Yes. And without a foundation, whatever you build on top will not stand.
No, absolutely not. Earl Nightingale said not having goals is like a ship leaving the port with no captain, nobody at the steering wheel, and just going full speed ahead. Who knows where you're going to end up?
Exactly.
Probably. You got to have a plan. You got to have a goal, an end goal. You got to have a plan to get there, or else you're just end up busted up on some deserted island.
Exactly. So how would you, like, if you were just having a conversation with somebody and they would ask you the question, how do I get my mindset in the right place? Like maybe just a couple light details. What should they do to put themselves in the mindset as they're sitting down to go through the process of thinking about their goals?
Well, the first thing, I would draw on a couple of the other Saturday afternoon coffee masterminds that we've done, and I would say make sure you figure out what you really want. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. So many people, and I've seen it in several industries, whether it's the home-based business industry, the online marketing industry, the real estate industry, anybody who's kind of in business for themselves usually has a little bit better grasp on this than other people who are just, wage slaves and have no desire to get out of that and their comfort and all that kind of stuff. So what I've noticed is that people get caught up. They'll talk to other people and find out what other people's goals are, and they'll read books and they'll read about what other people have and all that kind of stuff. And they're setting goals that really don't mean much to them. That don't stir something really deep inside themselves. They haven't figured out their why. Like what they really, really want, why they want it. And those are discussions that we've done on this and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that would be my first thing, is really get some extreme clarity on what you really want. Don't base it on what other people are doing. Oh, Joe Schmo said he's going to earn 50 grand this month, whatever. Do it for you. Do it what's important to you, and make sure you know your why. Why are you doing it? 20 grand a month, whatever. Why? What does that look like to you? What does that do for your life? What does that do for your family? What does that do, you start getting what we used to call, when I sold timeshares, third level questions. Have you heard of that?
Yes.
Right. You start asking, when I sit down and I'm talking with somebody about goals, I ask them what they want, and they'll tell me whatever. And first of all, I'm real impressed when I ask somebody that, and they give me something that's just not your cardboard cutting, 20 grand a month, 100 grand a year. There's no thought into that. If I ask somebody they want something, they're like, I want to make $216,000 next year. Okay, wait, guess what? They put some thought into that, not just a standard cookie cutter answer. So figure out, okay, why do you want that? Okay, great, well, I can buy a new car, I can buy a new house, I can whatever. Okay, well, if you buy that new car, you buy that new house, why do you want that? What does that do for you? Then you start getting into the feelings. Well, if I drive this new car, I'm going to feel really better about myself, or I'm going to have, if I pay off my house, I'm going to have that much kind of security. I'll feel stability and security and no stress and that kind of thing. It's different for everybody, but that's the thing. Everybody's unique, so you have to really get into it on that level. Before you put your pen to paper, figure out what you want, why you want it, what it'll do for you, and make sure it's for you.
Awesome. I have 2 points on what you just said. First of all, as you were starting to talk, this freaks me out because this is the 4th time this has happened, but as you were starting to talk, I wrote down a couple things that were on my mind or that I was thinking, and congruency was the first thing that I wrote down, and that's exactly what you talked about. So, no, I'm not reading your mind, but I do know what you're going to say.
Yeah, no, it's no mind reading at all. We're just congruent, that's all.
And then I wrote down, what do you want? who are you right now and who do you want to be when you achieve these goals. So, wow, that's crazy.
Right.
So anyway, so that's interesting. We're on the same wavelength. That's cool. The next point that I want to make is that question that people can ask themselves as they're placing themselves in the mindset is just a simple question that will help get to that third level, help take them deeper, is, and then what?
I
It'll
like that.
just like keep on asking yourself, and then what? What will that mean? And then what? How will that look? How will that feel?
Yep.
And that will just help you take you deeper and deeper. And while I mean, it's one thing to sit and ponder, and all of this will run around in your mind, and it'll create that thinking, and then it'll take you back into the past, and then you'll go back to the future, and there'll be a bunch of thinking happening.
Right.
But it's really important to take those thoughts and take that thinking and put it into jot notes. Somehow make a list or like put it down on paper or type it out, whatever your preference is, because something changes as you write it down. It becomes more real and it doesn't get tangled and lost in the emotions of the thought process.
Right. No, that's very important.
Yeah,
Very
because
important.
we do these silly things when we are thinking too much.
Right. Right. You think too much. Not you, but just everybody in general. I
Yeah,
do it. Everybody does it. So you have to, yeah, the tangle of thoughts. You have to really kind of work on sorting that out and getting organized in your mind, but that also leads to clarity on
right.
what.
Yeah.
Now let's.
There's a psychology behind that too, because whenever we're goal setting or planning for tomorrow, next month, or next year, we'll automatically go back into the past, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, and then that triggers not just the memories, but we'll also automatically attach an emotion to it, and sometimes that emotion is fear of the same thing happening, or fear of failure, fear of not achieving those goals, and you don't want to allow that emotion to attach to it because it's going to interfere with the process that you're aiming for of moving towards those goals and achieving them. You don't want to interrupt with these past emotions. So take the emotion out and get it on paper.
Yeah, that is real important. I hadn't even thought of that, but yeah, that's you. You can really overthink things and drag stuff from your past, which will affect you don't want that to muck up your vision for the future.
Exactly. Yeah. And most of us don't realize, but our memory, like when we're thinking of the past, we switch it up so much if you only think about it and don't write it down, that you can have it all contorted as to how it actually did happen. So don't
Right.
rely on that.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's
there's actually
true.
a theory to it in the whole um, title. Like it actually has a label of what we do, but we won't get into that because we are goal setting today.
Well, here's something I want to touch on because it goes well with the mind frame, and we touched on it real quick last week, and I've been thinking about it since last week, but I want to get your input on it. When you're talking about the size and the magnitude of your goals, now I'm a big fan of big thinking. I'm a fan of big goals. I'm a fan of stuff that's really going to get you going. Something that's really, really going to make you, stir you emotionally. But the flip side to that is, and I'm just going to cover it real quick because we went over it last week, but when it comes to the end of the year and it's goal setting time, or when people go to like an event or they go to, some sort of training or, one of these things that gets you all amped up, they start, and it kind of ties back into what I mentioned, they start setting goals based on what I think other people think. Oh, like I said, real quick, I have a friend of mine in Empower, we got done with an event, everybody's on this huge high, and all of a sudden they're talking about, I'm going to earn 50 grand a month. That's my goal. That's my goal. And I was like, well, that's great, but you haven't earned more than $5,000 in a month. $5,000 a month to 50 grand a month is a huge jump. It's a crazy jump. Going from 60 grand a year to $600,000 a year. And that's fine and good, but my question to this person was, that's awesome, I love it. What are you going to do differently? What's your plan? What's your business plan that you have to get this? Now, I know there are a lot of gurus out there who are telling you that set an amazing goal, a huge goal, and the process will unfold for you. What are your thoughts? There's two trains of thoughts there.
The very first thing that came to mind was reality. Right. Realistic. And there has to be a component of realistic thinking, like reality, and then that component that you were talking about, like the thinking big, the big dreams and putting that into place. So those are the first two thoughts that come to my mind. And how do you, if you just set that big goal without the in-between goals, which we're going to get to in the next part, like the steps in place and how to set smaller goals to help you achieve that big goal, and there's a whole process. You have to think about the steps that you would have to go through or what you would have to achieve first before you get to that big, wild, crazy goal, right?
Have you ever heard, see, you just made me remember something. Have you ever heard of back from the future thinking?
Yes.
Brian Tracy, that's kind of one of Brian Tracy's things. You get really super detailed. You imagine your life, say, in 5 years. Exactly how you want it. The money in the bank, the income, the house, the cars, and get really, really detailed on it. Like imagine yourself, like for me, I kind of imagine my life getting up in the morning. What does my master bedroom look like? What do my sheets look like? My comforter, my bathroom when I go in to brush my teeth. I go down to the kitchen. What does the kitchen look like? What's the pattern in the granite? What's the tile? What's the wood in the cabinets? What's the brand of the microwave? But get detailed on it. And get really detailed, like, okay, I'm sipping my cup of coffee. I go out to the garage for a second. What kind of cars are out there? When I go back in, what do I see outside for a view? What do I see outside my window? Is it water? Is it mountains? Is it ocean? And then the whole technique is get really detailed on that and then bring it back. What would have had to have happened in the last 5 years for you to be at that point? And it doesn't have to be 5 years. It can be 1 year. Great, we're setting goals for 2014. It's kind of the whole theme of this. Great, what does your life look like on December 28th, 2014? What are you doing? What does your life look like? What does your bank account look like? What does your relationships look like? What is your, how are you feeling? And then think back. What would you have had to have done each month, each week, each day between now and December 28th to make your life look like that?
Exactly. So you could think of it as if you needed to label it to help that thinking, what you've described is chunking. So you chunk up, you think to that where you want to get, and then you chunk back down. So what comes first to get that? So
yep.
That's chunking forward and backward, or chunking up and chunking down.
Exactly. You've got to label it out, because too many people have watched The Secret and they think they can sit there on their couch and think great positive thoughts and their life is just going to change and be like that. It doesn't happen that way. Sorry to disappoint you kids.
Yes.
It doesn't work that way. It's a great movie. There is a component to visualization and affirmations, but you got to do a lot more than that. So.
Yeah. There's that background process called massive action that has to take place.
Oh, shit. You mean I got to work? God damn it, Susan. That's not what I wanted to hear.
Too bad. So sad. There comes that reality.
Exactly. That comes the reality. That's where we're talking business plans, that we're talking what are you doing on a day-to-day basis that will cumulatively get you to where you want to be at a certain time in the future.
Right.
But it's got to be every single day. Every single day making forward progress.
Yeah, every single day. And I mean, it is not good enough to only do this process, the goal setting, once a year. I mean, this is important and this should be the big time, but this should be ongoing all the time. They should always be in your mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is not just a one-time thing. It's something that you have to keep monitoring every week, every month, throughout the year to make sure you get where you want to go.
Yeah. I just always kind of smirk when people talk about New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, a resolution is just something you give up in a week or two.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to say that you did it, or like spur of the moment, there's not a lot of thought or energy put into it. It's just like, oh, kind of on a whim, I guess.
Yeah, more of a whim, no plan, no nothing.
Yeah.
I'm going to lose weight. Whatever. If that's your goal, nothing's going to happen. You have to figure out how much weight you're going to lose, when you're going to lose it by, and what steps you're going to take to get there.
Right.
You've got to be specific. That's the thing with goals, and we mentioned this a little bit on this earlier. When we get to the mechanics of it, they've got to be specific. Individual, unique, congruent, but they have to be specific.
I agree. I want to take another angle, and this is still to do with mindset, but it's always good to start fresh with, new goals and new thinking and such. But one thing that can really help each of us do better at goal setting and goal achieving is if we have a look at our past goals and just contemplate, how did I come upon that goal? What did I do to set that goal? What steps did I take? And what steps did I take to achieve that goal? And why didn't I achieve that goal? So kind of an evaluation process. And then the last question we could ask ourselves is, what can I do better? How can I improve this process so that I do achieve this goal or set it better or work towards it better?
Right.
So always improving on our own process. And part of that is, you gave some awesome points of references to refer to, well, first of all, facts from Harvard and Brian Tracy. There's lots of resources to help us set our goals, but we have to make it personal. We have to do it with what works for us. And that goes back to one of our really awesome discussions that we had, and in just knowing what works for us. I lost the word that I was going to use to describe that. It might come to me, but anyway, just being aware of what works for us and creates that congruency with where we want to go.
Yeah, and that's more that, I guess that would be kind of more in the the business planning, or the planning aspect of the goals, because you have to know, within that plan it has to be something that works for you, unless of course you're just lazy and then you need to change who you are. But do people work in different ways, and I think the actual goal setting should be pretty uniform, pretty much about everybody. Like everybody's got to set goals in different areas of life, or should. Everybody should write their goals down.
Yes.
Their goals should be in present positive personal tense when they write them down. So, yes, there's room for a certain amount of individuality, but most of it comes in the way that you're going to attack it.
I agree. And what will keep you motivated?
Right. Exactly. Now, we're going to discuss this both a little bit now and a little bit in the next one, but the 5 areas of goal setting, because people get really wrapped up in finances, and that's just one area of your life. If you really want to have a happy, fulfilled, meaningful life, yes, a strong financial stability is really good, but I just jotted them down before we started on. Obviously, you've got your health and your energy. What are you doing to make sure you stay healthier, improve your health, all that kind of stuff? You've got relationships, and that's not just with your significant other. It's with your children. It's with your parents. It's with your friends, your brothers, sisters, your coworkers, whatever it is. What are you going to do to become a better person and improve those relationships? You've got your career, whatever you're doing. Maybe it's changing careers. Maybe it's getting out of your job into something more entrepreneurial. Whatever it is. Financial independence, I think that's pretty much self-explanatory. And then number 5, people call it different depending on their own personal preferences, but I kind of group it all under more your spirituality. I'm not a religious person, but your individuality, your creativity, your spirituality, all those things that really kind of make you happy and fulfilled. So I think paying equal attention. There's different times in your life where you're going to be paying a little bit more focus, a little bit more energy toward one or the other, or a couple over whatever. But you can't completely dismiss a couple of them.
I agree. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because we need to work on all of those to find balance and to be to reach that concept of sustainable fulfillment.
Love that term.
Me too.
Sustainable fulfillment. Yeah, you really can't. What's the point of being absolutely rich if you're unhappy?
That's right.
What's the point of having a great relationship if you're so broke you cannot do anything?
What's the point of being incredibly happy and have no money?
Right. Exactly. So really, to have a good life, you need to really pay attention to all 5 components of goal setting. All of them. And I was really guilty of just focusing on the monetary aspect for a long time, especially when I was real estate. I remember one time sitting at the Pink Taco in the Hard Rock Cafe in Vegas, and it was about this time of the year, and my ex-wife, or it was my wife at the time, were out with a friend of mine and his wife, and this is something we'll talk about in mechanics, but I had all my goals written down on a little 3x5 card that I carried with me everywhere, and we started kind of comparing, and mine were, list a certain amount of houses, sell a certain amount of houses, make a certain amount of money, blah, blah, blah. It was on down the line. There was 5 or 6 things on there. Everything had to do with finances. And my buddy pulled his out, because he was my business partner. He pulled his out. He was reading them out. The top ones on his list were like, maintain and improve his loving relationship with his wife. And there was a lot of things on there, like one was money related. Guess what didn't go over too well with my ex-wife? I'll give you a quick guess on that. And that was my fault. That was my fault. I was so focused on chasing the buck that I really wasn't paying attention to the other aspects, including my relationships.
That's really interesting. I had the opposite problem.
Oh, really?
Yep. My goals were always really focused on relationships, happiness, joy, all of that stuff. Energy, health always was really important. I focused so well on all of those, and I never focused on money.
Hmm.
Financial abundance was never a focus. Didn't even cross my mind.
Hmm. That is interesting. I
Isn't it
wonder. I wonder why that is.
I wonder why that is.
Maybe that's a whole nother video.
It is. I know exactly why it is,
I
but
believe you do.
I won't talk about it here. But it is very interesting.
Yeah. That was kind of a
Also, it's another key as to why we're masterminding, you and I, on these Saturdays.
right.
It's
You
another
gotta,
part of that totem. It's very interesting.
yeah, you
So,
gotta.
for the audience, this is why you need to build relationships, get in this industry, and engage in these masterminds.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's so many people from so many different backgrounds. I mean, just you and I, as an example, come from complete different backgrounds,
Mhm.
and the unique insights that we bring to any given subject are going to come from completely different perspectives.
Yeah,
Which,
that's where the growth happens.
yes, and that's where people can come in and learn. They might not really vibe with me and really get some good knowledge from you, or vice versa.
Hmm. So
So,
listen with an open mind, drop your ego, and pay attention to what we're telling you about this goal setting, and you will take from it.
yep, absolutely,
Even
absolutely.
if, and even if all of this, the cool thing about this, even if you know all of these points, some of especially some of the most powerful points that you've made today, I knew them before, knowledge-wise, but I am going to take them into a different quality of inflection during my goal setting for next year because we've discussed it, because it triggered in a different way, because I was open to hearing what you had to say.
Right. Yeah, and the same is going to go for me because I haven't sat down. I haven't gone through the process yet. I've been doing a lot of self-reflection on the past year, getting my mind straight on what do I want to accomplish next year. But it's not something you just do in a minute or two. That's been the majority of this month for me. And tomorrow and Monday, I'm probably going to actually get to the process of writing my goals out for the next year.
Yeah, me too.
So that'll be interesting when we reconvene, because I think maybe if we share our goals, it's part of that transparency. I think maybe at some point next Saturday or something like that, we do one between then that maybe we can share those out
Yeah,
and discuss this. You can say no if you want to.
yeah. No, we could do that after you share your awesomeness list.
My awesomeness. That would be way too long. That would be a whole nother
Yeah,
video.
totally joking.
Yeah, I don't, try and be humble. All right. Anything else you want to touch on as far as mindset is concerned?
No, no, I think that's it. So, do we want to do a summary, kind of wrap it all up into a neat package?
Wrap it up.
All right. So, mindset is itself is just as important as the goals themselves. We are talking about effective goal setting here. So, that is why you need to take the time, set your ego aside, and get your mindset in the right place. It might even take a little bit of quieting of your mind, like maybe meditation, quiet sitting, some music, a drive in the car, whatever you do that quiets your mind so that you can really put the right energy and thought into something is really important. get yourself in the right place and put a reasonable amount of energy into goal setting, and do that question. What question did I put? Oh yeah, and then what? Keep that question in mind. Chunk up, chunk down, like think of the big picture, and then come back down is what small pictures need to fall into place for that big picture to happen. What small steps need to take place for that big goal to happen. That's what I would like to summarize as the takeaway. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, except that you really need to take this seriously. If your success, your happiness in life, I mean, all these kind of things are important to you. It's something that you really need to take seriously. And like I said, the majority of this month for me has been a time of reflection, because this has been a huge year for me. And it's something that I've put a lot of thought into. And I've hit some major goals for this year. I was, you mentioned something earlier in this hangout that, looking back at the goals you set, and I don't know. I was in a funk last year. I was very depressed. I was very pissy. I wasn't in a good mood, and that was kind of me, honestly, for a couple of years. So I don't know. I cannot remember for the life of me if I actually wrote out goals last year. And if I did, I know I didn't a couple years before that. But if I did, I really wish I could review them right now. I think that would be really powerful for me. Obviously I had stuff in mind, and most of it was getting out of Vegas, and that was kind of my focus, was making enough money online so I could get the hell out of Vegas and just change my life completely, which I accomplished. And that's what was on my mind, but I don't actually remember if I wrote anything down.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do this year when I do write the goals out, I'm going to put myself a little time capsule. It's going to be somewhere so that I can unwrap it and pop out my goals, which should be in front of me all year long. However, I want to be able to look at exactly what I write down right now while I'm in this reflective mood and see how things have transpired between 2013 and 2014. So that's the only thing I have. Let's do this. We'll get fired up and do the part 2 here. Really, you up for it?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's start a brand new hangout. Anybody, thanks for joining. If you were watching with us, thank you. We're gonna be doing another one live here in about 5 or 10 minutes. I gotta get some more coffee. And as always, if you are looking to get into an internet-based business, there are join links below wherever you found this video, I'm sure, but for both me and Susan. If you want to team up for us, if you have questions, email me. I'm always available. I will answer you. And Happy New Year's.
Yeah, and do share feedback. Like, what did you take away from this? What were you presently doing for goal setting, and what are you going to do now?
Exactly.
We want to know.
Feedback is good. So I will see you in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, maybe
All right.
8 or 9.
Happy New Year, everybody.